You're watching Esports Center, and we are here with Legends in the Making, Joke. Joke, so good to meet you. Awesome to talk to you. I'm excited to have you share your story today. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Um, you know, I can't complain. There's always silver lining. It's everywhere I look. So life is good, and I'm interviewing you right now. So I mean, you're the Madden 2020 Bowl champion. Let's just cut to the chase. Let's get to the good stuff. You were on a very sort of a dry spell, you might say, and you've been competing against the best. You've been known as one of the best, and here you go, first win to take home. You really know how to shut everyone up, don't you? I mean, you took home the championship bowl.
Yeah, so it took me 11 tournaments. This is like my 11th tournament that I've made. I think I'm like second all time in appearances, and I finally won one. And I probably won the best one because I won during COVID, so there was a ton of attention to it. And then I also won the championship, so I basically can say I was the Madden 20 champion. So in my opinion, it's probably the best one to win because it's the final one. So
Yeah.
if obviously if I could have chosen one, I would have loved to win one before, but it being the championship made it feel a little better.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe this was how it's supposed to be because I'm sure this feels real sweet right now. What was the response from the opposing teams and the fans within the community to your win?
So it kind of feels like everything happens for a reason. So the first tournament, I made the final six and I lost. The second tournament, I lost in the final four. The third tournament, I lost in the final four. So going into the tournament, I was the number one seed by points. So like it was kind of going into like, okay, am I gonna finally win one? Because that was the first time ever that I basically had the most points ever in an MCS season. So going into that tournament, I was basically the best player already. I just hadn't won the tournament. So everybody's just going into the tournament. All the questions I kept getting asked, it wasn't if, oh, are you going to play well? It's like, are you going to win? That's the only question people asked me was like, are you finally going to win one? So to
Yeah.
me, it felt like it was really like win or bust. Like if I made the finals and lost, it was like a disappointment. Like people only wanted to see me win. I had one option and it was to win. And then, finally I got to finally, after 11 tries, finally get to win my first major.
Well, hey, I mean, it's not how many times you fail because I mean, you gotta keep pushing through that. You certainly had the discipline and you did it in a way that even surprised a lot of people. You didn't just take home the win. You actually switched it up. You capitalized on the predictability of your opponents. You switched up your game during those breaks between your matches, studying the opposing team. You didn't have the typical lineup rockstar lineup on your team, right? You didn't even have a traditional quarterback. So how is it that you were able to strategically change your playing style to win?
So going into the tournament, I had released something that's called an ebook, which is basically a book of plays that shows players how to play the game. And I had released an ebook on the best run defense in the game, which was nickel 35 wide. So going into the tournament, I knew the run defense that every single player was going to run was the nickel 35 wide, because Madden is a copycat league where once something comes out that's good, everyone should start to run it. So when I kind of decided that I was going to go into a quarterback, my preparation was just like only play against 35 wide because I knew that's what everyone's going to run. Going into the tournament, all other 15 competitors, their run defense was 35 wide. And it was kind of like an approach that not a lot of people took. There was only 4 people in the tournament who had no quarterback. One being one of my best friends in real life, this guy named Little Man. He had my same exact team. So obviously he was doing the exact same thing I was doing. He had the same exact players on offense, same exact players on defense. We had literally the same exact team, same playbook. And then the only other 2 guys were also lab partners who had the same exact teams as well. So basically there was only 2 people who thought that this would be a winning strategy, which were me and a guy named Voltrex, who had just won the second major of the year doing the same exact thing. So I kind of just went into that tournament thinking like, one, people kind of laughed at me. So like I got a few text messages from people in the tournament saying like, your team's terrible. Can't believe you don't have a quarterback. You have no chance to win without a quarterback. And I just laughed. And I remember replying to one of the guys and saying, LOL, okay, we'll see. And then I go into the group and I start off the group by winning my group, being the number 1 seed. And I remember texting back the guy like, still think I have no chance? And he replied back and said, yeah, there's no way you can win the tournament with no quarterback. And that
Uh,
was kind of more fuel because like I feel like every tournament last year I was like a step ahead of everyone. And that was something like I took pride in, like being innovative and being a step ahead of everyone. And everybody, there was a lot of people who thought I had no chance to win the tournament. They said that no quarterback wasn't a winning strategy, and I proved them all wrong.
It's so mental. It's the confidence aspect of it, the burden, the weight that you're carrying with the pressure you're putting on yourself, and it's hard to overcome that. And so the fact that you were able to push through that, focus, think strategically, critically, and intelligently beat your opponents with your tactics that were atypical, quite amazing. But how? What I really want to know is how'd you get to this point? Like we're talking about the highlight moment, like the big bang, but there was a journey for you to get to this point. What's that like for you? Because I know based on our conversations just before, that it's a very interesting story, and I'd love for you to share.
So I'm just gonna start off with how I started to play Madden. So I was always like a basketball guy. High school, I played basketball. I played one down in football. Basically had like a high ankle sprain. I never played football again. So my friends used to play a lot of 2K, and I used to beat them at 2K. So they're like, all right, that's it. We're not playing no more 2K. We're gonna start playing Madden. So my friends started beating me in Madden. So then I started to go online and I started to practice. And I actually got matched up with this guy named Garris who's still around. And he was doing these like kind of glitch plays. And I messaged him. I was maybe like, I don't know, 12, 13 years old. And I was like, hey man, how did you do those plays? Like, what were you doing? And luckily enough for me, this probably changed my life. He messaged me back and told me exactly what he was doing. So as soon as he messaged me, I went into practice mode. I did all the plays. And that's kind of when I learned there was like a whole nother side of Madden that I had no idea about. And that's kind of what started getting me into Madden. So that was back when I was maybe 12, 13. It was back in Madden 07. So Madden 07, I started to play a game a lot. And then my first actual tournament was in Madden 09. I was 14 years old. What I used to have to do to go to these tournaments was I would tell my brother where I was going. My brother would drive me, and my mom never knew where I was at. My brother basically would lie to my mom for me. So when I was 14 years old, my brother drove me all the way to Harrisburg in Pennsylvania. He left me there with my friends, who I'm still friends with now, they were 18, so he felt comfortable leaving me around them. And my mom the whole time thought I was at my girlfriend at the time's house on the weekend. Mind you, I'm in Harrisburg playing tournaments. So when I was young, my brother used to take me to the tournaments, leave me there, and then go pick me up. And then the way I started playing Madden full time was I got fired from my job where I used to be I used to do loss prevention for a company that stocked and shipped high-end clothing brands. So we had, Gucci, Fendi, Prada, Tom Ford, all the designer stuff we had in a warehouse. And I was loss prevention. I just had to make sure people weren't stealing. So I remember getting fired and calling my best friend like, hey, I just got fired. And he said, okay, what are you going to do? And maybe 3 to 4 weeks before that, Madden had just announced that they were going to become an esport the next year, and that they were going to put a prize pool towards Madden. And I remember telling my friends, well, like, I've always been one of the best at Madden. I'm just going to try to play full time. And the first tournament, I made the first tournament. I made the second tournament. I made the third tournament. In the fourth tournament, I won $35,000. So I won like my first year of Madden where I decided to go full time. I think I made like close to 60K, which was more than I was making at my regular job. And I was obviously having more fun doing it because Madden is just something I always loved. So if I never get fired from that job, I never have the time to even put into the game that Madden 17. So if I never get fired, I probably never get to play Madden like full time. So it's kind of like, that's why I say like everything happens for a reason. Like the way I even started to play Madden full time was I got fired from my regular job. And then I just said, I'm just going to go for it. And at that point, 3 or 4 years ago, a lot of people weren't making a lot of money off gaming. Now, there's ninjas, there's Tifus, there's Nick Mercs who get hundreds of thousands of views. But back, 3 or 4 years ago, like that wasn't a thing that many people did. And I remember when Madden announced it, I said, I'm just going to try it to see where it goes.
Wow. First, let me say, sorry, Mom, but it worked out. Secondly, it's a really good brother that you have there to drive you all the way from Jersey to Harrisburg. That's not a short drive. It's, what was that, 3-4 hours? That's dedication.
And he did it a few times. There was a lot of tournaments in PA and in Philadelphia where he would take me, go back home. I would call him. He'd go back home and pick me up, drive me back home. So my brother did a lot. Honestly, my brother kind of fueled my whole Madden season. So one thing I did do for my brother is once I won the Madden Bowl, I remember I went to my brother and he wanted to get like a new set of rims for his new car. And the rims are like, I think they were like $2,500, and I just paid it for him. And I was like, oh, that's a thank you for you basically jump starting my Madden career.
Yeah. I mean, come on, it's the least you could do. That's a
Yeah,
great brother. That's the champ right there for sure. But the other areas that you were talking about, silver linings, you getting fired and then finding another opportunity, a door open where you actually had time to contemplate and think about it. And what a prime opportunity. The timing had to be just right. To your point, 3, 4 years ago, you really didn't have this kind of movement happening with professional esports. And it happened for you right just in the nick of time. It's funny because when you asked me how I was doing just at the beginning of our conversation, I said silver linings, and I thought to myself, why'd you say that? Like of all things to say to somebody, right? But I always like to be authentic and make sure that you're connecting with people no matter in what capacity. And you just brought that full circle. That is a silver lining if I've ever heard one. That's awesome.
yeah, it's like what people say, everything's meant to be.
Yeah. The journey that you had was unique to you, to the time of the esports maturity, as far as growing in collegiate space, high school to collegiate to pro, and like the organizing bodies and the conferences that we have in traditional sports. You didn't really have that to take advantage of when you were in school. What do you think about the fact that today we have, I mean, like we have a level up arcade happening later tonight where we pro gamers are going to play with the winners of the qualifying team on their pro squad and just give the students feedback, give them an opportunity to shine and some one-on-one time. That's amazing. That's an opportunity that the kids are like, wow, I can't believe I get the chance to play in front of name your gamer, right? That's all happening because the organizing bodies are being built out where they're trying to create the opportunities for tournaments, for championships, for the brackets, the rankings, for recruitment, scouting to go to teams like professional EA leagues or any other professional esports organization like Houston Outlaws, right? For Overwatch. What would that have been like for you if you would have been able to
So
capitalize on?
for me, it would have been huge because like when I was in high school, I was playing Madden. I remember there was times where I would go to sleep at 3 or 4 in the morning and I had to be up by 7 to go to school. And I would be tired all day in school because all I wanted to do was game. And now these guys have opportunities while in school to actually go and play video games. And a lot of, my cousin, he's 13 years old and he wants to be a professional Fortnite player. So his mom, my aunt, and my uncle, they're always a little hesitant, like, oh, how much do we let him play? We have to make him focus on school. So now if he was given the opportunity to be able to play Fortnite and be able to practice and be given the tools to be a professional esport athlete, then it would be huge for him. I feel like that's great because in my opinion, there's a lot of people making a lot of money in esports. It's a valuable career now, especially with all the leagues that are coming out. Overwatch has an insane league, League of Legends, Dota, Call of Duty, and all those guys are making millions of dollars playing video games. And having the collegiate league just gives them more reason to push for that. It gives them motivation. They get to meet these pro gamers. They get to hear stories from them. And it just gives them more reason to try to be pro gamers and just try to chase your dreams. Like if you want to play video games and if that's what you think you want to do for a living, then do it. Take a chance.
And also like you said, your mom didn't know that you were practicing. Your mom didn't know that you were going to tournaments. It's by having it as a function within the school, right? Having it offered and organized and structured by the school with the faculty sponsorship and giving them a pathway to really understand what are their options for a career in esports. Because one thing that's really unique about esports is the technology behind it, the STEM applications for applied learning, but you also have like the broadcasting, the shoutcasting. It's kind of the wild, wild west. Like all of this stuff is forming. You stream yourself, right? So these are all different avenues and skill sets that you can take either in career in esports or even to other fields where it's applicable because everybody's streaming and digital and technology is a part of everything we do. So maybe that would be great for your cousin or, to not have to hide that you're practicing. And it should become more of an accepted hobby where you're able to apply your passion without fear of, well, he's wasting his life away, right?
That's how a lot of like my mom used to like be like, oh, you can't play Madden, you got to go work. Now she's obviously okay with it, but like when I was first starting, like most parents don't think video games is like an actual career that you can do until somebody does, and it's like Ninja, my Ninja's making millions of dollars, and he's opening so many eyes to people who can game. And I even think video gaming teaches social skills, because most of the time you're playing video games, you're playing with other people you've never met. So you're becoming friends with people you've never met. When you're streaming, you're interacting with people you've never met, different diversities. So in my opinion, even video games even teaches social skills while not being outside, and you're still interacting with other people from all over the world. Some of my best friends don't even live close to me. My business partner, who's one of my best friends, he lives in Wisconsin. I've met so many different people from so many different states that, in my opinion, I'll call brothers forever, that I met through gaming. And had I never gamed, I would have never met those kind of people. So many different kinds of people, different states, different cultures, and all of that. I met those people because of video games.
It expands your world, so virtually, and then but you're making real connections, authentic connections with these people, because you're so engaged with something you're all passionate about. It's a community for sure. That inclusivity of a diverse pool set, imagine that being fostered and created on school campuses. Like, that would be so cool for the students, and I love seeing that that's happening across the board. So enough of that. I don't want to make you feel bad that that's not the opportunity you had, so we'll move on, because it worked out for you, so don't worry. But what's next for you now that you won? What are you doing now within esports? What can we expect to see?
So I still have the drive to be a pro Madden player. I still want to be the best at Madden. But the one thing that I want to start doing more is I want to become more of a streamer. I feel like there's being a competitive player and being an entertainer, a content creator, it's kind of a hard bridge, because like in Madden, it's such a copycat league where you kind of want to not have everyone know where you're running. So it's kind of hard to build that bridge together. So that's one thing that I've been trying to focus on, is how can I be a good content creator while still trying to be a good Madden pro. And then I've also now, like off Madden, I've been just trying to be more fit up, more working out, going into those tournaments, like a lot of preparation going into the tournaments. Like I wasn't working out, I wasn't, staying up late, so eating bad. And then I would gain like 10, 15 pounds sometimes before these tournaments. So like a big thing for me for this season is like not gain those pounds before these tournaments. Like try to find time to where I can stay healthy and still play Madden at a high level. So I'm just trying to bridge all of that together.
You know what? Mind, body, and soul, those things need to be aligned, right? For all intents and purposes. Like within internally, you got to be aligned in order to perform well at anything that you do. If you feel misaligned, if you feel like your head's not right, or your head's not in the game, these things will mess you up. But I think a lot of people wouldn't expect you to say that your health, physical fitness is a factor in your performance with esports. How does that work out?
So it's just like, not too long ago, I remember reading that Paul George said during the bubble he was depressed. He was playing bad. It's the same way in Madden. Let's say you're depressed, you don't feel like yourself. You're not practicing. It's just like real sports, where the athletes either go through a football, they go through a baseball, they go through a basketball. If I'm not practicing, I'm not playing the game, I'm not getting better. So it's the same way. Like if your mind's not into it, then it's going to affect your performance, just like any other sport. The difference is that we hold the controller and they hold the real, either football, basketball, baseball. So that definitely takes into control. So like one thing that I've been doing now is like, instead, like before, when I would lose a big game, I would stress eat. Now, when that happens, when I lose a big game, instead of stress eating, I'm just going to go to the gym and lift some weights. And that's like a real thing. Like I would lose big games and I would just be like, all right, well, I'm just going to go stress eat and just get over it. And then now I'm just trying to make like healthier choices, to where instead of doing that, I go to the gym and go either do some cardio or lift some weights and just stuff like that. Just trying to be healthier.
That's great advice. I hope that students listening and coaches listening, education institutions that are trying to find coaches for the students. I mean, these are active conversations happening about how do we figure out how to structure something that maybe they're not familiar with. Esports definitely falls in line with that. And when it comes to the coaches, the life skills, the holistic approach to what's going on in the student's life, how are they approaching game day, how are they preparing for it, and how are they taking care of all aspects of their well-being. That's really important. But what's incredible and impressive about you is you made a decision to change your habits before your feelings caught up to that. Like you decided, no, this is a bad habit. In order for me to change my outcome, I'm going to switch up that habit and replace it with a healthy one. I'll go to the gym instead. I don't know if I've ever really successfully made that habit about the gym. It comes and goes. but that's impressive.
So a thing too that esport teams now, so these esport organizations, the team I'm signed by is doing it as well. They're having life coaches and mental coaches. So like, let's just say, you know, your headspace is not in the right spot. You can go and you can go talk to them. And I feel like professional athletes do this all the time. And video gamers should do it sometimes too. Like sometimes you're not playing well and it starts affecting you like, all right, maybe I'm just not good. And it's good that even esport organizations are having these type of coaches for people to speak to, because at the end of the day, mental health is going to affect everyone. And it's good that these esport teams are taking it seriously and getting these coaches for players who feel like they're not playing to the top of their game because of mental reasons.
Yeah, so you said you wanted to be a content creator as well. And one of the things I want to ask you is, you know, you have already a coaching website called Elite Madden. You've obviously created some playbooks that are well adopted within the players in Madden. So, are you going to keep running that esports, the Elite coaching website, and you know stream as well, or what's your vision?
Yes. So I actually just dropped an offensive ebook and a defensive ebook, and it's the exact same things I'm going to run against pro players. So like if pro players wanted to know exactly what I'm running, they can go to my website and buy it. It's the same exact thing I did last year, where every single thing I ran on offense and defense I put out. So that's definitely something that I'm going to continue to do. But I also want to start streaming, and I feel like streaming actually helps the website anyways, because maybe somebody comes to watch me that doesn't know I have a website. I mention it on stream and they're like, oh, hey, I want to get better, and they go purchase it. So I feel like streaming comes hand in hand with content creating. Just the only difference is there's going to be some things that I put out on Twitch for free, and then there's going to be exclusive things that I put out for, you know, our members at Elite Madden, where you'll have to pay to see. So it's just like there's a difference, but it kind of goes hand in hand with each other.
Yeah, 100% agree. Joe, this show is about legends in the making, and you're creating a brand. That's what I see you doing. Like you're setting the stage. You're an influencer and well respected within the game to be able to. What inspired you to coach or to give back in that way to help other people raise the level up their game really? Because it was at the first DM that you got back and just inspired you to keep sharing, or does it go deeper than that?
That's a big reason, honestly, because like if Garrus would have never taught me what he did, I never probably would have been a Madden pro. So that the one thing about me is like I always have my Twitter DMs open, and I get tons of questions about people who, you know, like, hey, how do I do this play? And I always made it an effort to reply to everyone who asked me anything about Madden, because I was once that person. So I remember talking maybe 2 or 3 years ago with the guy I run the website with now. I'm like, hey man, we really should make a website. Like there's a lot of other websites. We have better players than them. Like we'll have better content because we understand the game better. And me, I've always been somebody who I just love talking about Madden. Like talking about Madden to me is like talking about like basketball, like arguing who's better between LeBron and Jordan. I love that. So for me, it was easy because like basically the stuff I would tell my friends where we would like basically say how they feel about the game and how I feel about the game. Now I just get to say that in front of a camera to people who buy these things. So it kind of went hand in hand where like I was always like, I love talking about Madden. Now I get to do that for people who buy the ebooks, people who buy our membership. So it was kind of me and my friend Drag just saying like, hey, we really need to do this. And I've kind of been in a group called Elite Madden Ballers my whole life since I was 14. It's a group basically of a group of Madden players. And basically what I was saying is like, we can turn this into a brand. Instead of it just being a group, we can turn it into a brand, make it a website, which is why we named it Elite Madden, coming from the crew. And then now it's like, even on my wall in my room, I have the EM logo on my wall. Like I have EM shirts. So like I turned what was just a group of friends into a brand that allows us all to make money from it.
Super impressed. Again, that's championship worthy right there. I mean, if you look at any of the greats, which by the way, LeBron or Jordan, they created a brand. You get to a point where you're influencing the next wave of upcoming players and stars, or you're helping enabling the people that are just right at that tipping point that we're struggling with, like you, to get that win, but they're continuously pushing. Like that's the kind of giving back and loop back and feedback you can have in a community that you're creating. You're starting those conversations, you're leading the charge in all fronts. That's really cool. I'm super excited to hear what you got coming up from a streaming perspective. But also, who's better, Jordan or LeBron?
LeBron is the greatest athlete of all time in any sport that I've ever watched.
Okay, of any sport. That brings me to my
sport.
next. That brings me to my next, mind blown piece of knowledge that I have on you, so I'm going to share it with everybody here. You're not actually an NFL fan, but yet you play Madden. What's the deal there? What's the difference?
Okay, so like I was telling you before, basically this is how that happened. I used to play 2K with my friends. I would always beat them at 2K. So they're like, we're not playing 2K anymore. We got to start playing Madden. So then they started to beat me at Madden. So that's how I got into Madden. Me, I've always been a basketball fan. Well, when I was maybe like 10, first growing up, I was a big baseball fan because my dad actually played AAA for the Mets when he came from Cuba. So my dad was a really, really good baseball player, played professional in Cuba, almost played professional here. So my dad always wanted us to play baseball, but I just I never really got into it. My dad and my grandfather both moved to Florida and we stayed here. So once they moved, I never really had love for baseball. I always had love for basketball. So I'd always play basketball. So basketball to me is what I've always watched. Like I love LeBron James. Anyone ever tells me LeBron James is not the greatest, I'm ready to argue it for hours. But to me, football is just not fun to watch because the way I play Madden, I get to see all 11 players on defense. I get to see what kind of coverage is in there, if they're in man coverage, if they're blitzing, if what kind of assignment they're in. That's why for me, Madden is fun because I get to see everyone. In football, we really don't get to see the cornerbacks. We don't get to see what the safeties are doing. We don't get to see what the quarterback is looking at. So for me, it's just never been fun to watch because I'm a nerd. I want to know what's going on, and I can't see that in football. So if there was a different point of view in football, then maybe I could watch it. But I mean, if you tell me like last night the Lakers were playing and the Chiefs were playing the opener, everyone's so excited about the opener kickoff. The Lakers were up 20 points, and I'm like, I'm trying to watch the Lakers. I'm not trying to watch football. Even if the only thing I'll maybe watch is like the Super Bowl. If we have a get together with my friends and we do a Super Bowl party. But that's like
But
maybe
that's
the
not
only game I'll
basketball.
watch.
You're not really. Well, I guess it is overlapping with basketball season there. So okay.
Well, if there was an NBA Finals game and a Super Bowl, the Super Bowl would never be watched. I would watch the whole NBA game. And if that game finished and then the football game was still on, like, yeah, maybe I'd turn to it and see who was winning.
It's clear where your loyalties are, but I gotta say, I think maybe when we start to see the future of sports venues and entertainment, like how they're broadcasting the matches, we're seeing a lot of things virtually. You know, they have those omni screens around the NBA court right now, and they're trying to engage fans. So I'm really curious to see how they're going to engage fans with as the NFL season goes through, you know, this year, the way that they've been trying to get creative in the NBA sector. So what if you were able to actually pick as a fan the angle on the field that you're watching or spectating? Would you then maybe start to gravitate towards NFL a little bit more?
I think then I would really enjoy football. So what I've been seeing is a commercial called True View. Every time they show like Mahomes rolling left and they show what Mahomes sees. Now, if I could see what Mahomes sees or the quarterback, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, whoever the quarterback is at the time, that is definitely something I would do because then I feel like I'm playing Madden, but the only difference is I'm just watching it. So if it was something like that where it's like a different camera view, especially something I can pick where like, let's just say I like the safety on the football, on the defensive player, I want to see what he's seeing, and I could just click on his camera, then that would be definitely something that would make me a fan of football. But as of right now, the way that we get to watch it, my
Yeah.
opinion, people are going to kill me for this, but football is boring.
So maybe that's why esports is more attractive to a lot of people in some cases because you're actually getting to dive into the games where you're getting perspectives and engagement that you wouldn't normally get just by spectating or even just playing the game. You have more opportunity to play the game digitally, right, than you would if you're going to go out and practice all the time. Forget about the restrictions of, you know, social distancing now. I'm talking like in general, you could be playing football on with Madden more than you could be physically practicing and engaging, right?
Yeah, because you get to control every player, so you can see what the player sees. And in football, like the camera view is really only like the quarterback and the
Yeah.
lineman, so I only get to see the aspect of it. So that's why I've never really been a big football fan. Only played one down, I got injured, never played again. And basketball to me, basketball is fun because like it's also more exciting where like a guy might get a steal and he might dunk on someone else. Like in football, there's really not that many like exciting plays. As like maybe if you watch the Chiefs, you'll see Tyreek run by everybody, but there's really not that many exciting plays in football in my opinion.
So why not play basketball?
Well, you see now you just got to go with what you're good at. I started getting good at Madden. I was already one of the best. I said, all right, I know this game. I tried to be like I remember in maybe 2K12, I tried to like really play 2K a lot. And the guys who were just so much better than me, I said, all right, I'm just gonna stick to what I'm good at.
Know
I'm
your
just gonna
strengths.
stick to Madden. I win more than I usually lose in Madden, so that's why I stuck to it.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. You know your strengths, and you're paving a way for a brand, and growing your career. So we're really excited to keep watching you. Thank you so much for joining us today. That's all we got for Esports Center today, everyone. Make sure you keep watching and check out the pros in the Level Up Arcade later tonight.